Welcome, Lee here from Play Guitar Academy with another Why They Work lick video. The major pentatonic scale, it's used in many different styles and types of songs, but it always takes a backseat to the minor pentatonic for beginners and career beginners. I have 5 major pentatonic licks that will get you up and running, and in each lick I show you how to use my favorite pro trick to make them fit perfectly. But before we get started, to get the most out of these lick lessons, we need to open up the entire fretboard and stop playing in just 1 or 2 patterns. So take a second to click the link in the description and download my free Big 4 scale pattern worksheet. Okay, let's get started with the licks. Today I'm playing in the key of E, and the chord progression has an E chord going to an A chord. I'm using the E major pentatonic scale pattern. And over the A chord, I'm going to add my pro trick is doing a little chord tone targeting. We're going to add an A note somewhere over the A chord. So this first lick is going to be in pattern 3 of E major pentatonic. And we're going to start on the B note, that's the 5th in E, go to the C sharp, the 6th, and then we're going to go jump all the way up to the major 3rd, the G sharp up there, and let it ring. We do it again, and now we're going to be using my pro trick, which is doing a little chord tone targeting when we have one of these 2 chord progressions. So now I'm going to try to do the same thing. We'll start on the B, go to the C sharp, but I'm now, instead of going to the G sharp, that's a half step away from the A. And the chord that we're going to be targeting is this A chord. A is not in E major pentatonic scale. We're going to add this in just over that A chord. In fact, we're going to do it right here. We're going up to the 5th fret on the high E string. That's our A note there. And then we're going to finish this lick off going up the E major pentatonic scale. That's the B, C sharp, E. And then we jump up to the G sharp and back down the scale, ending on our E note. In lick 2, we're using pattern 4 of the E major pentatonic scale. And we're starting at the highest note. We have our 7th degree. That's a B. So we were starting on a B before. Now we start on a higher B. And we bend our F sharp up to the G sharp. We're bending the 9th or the 2nd up to the major 3rd. It's a very kind of country type sound. Then we go back to the B. These are all in this scale pattern. And then we end back at the E. We're playing over an E chord, so that's a strong note. Now we have an A chord coming up. I've got my 2nd finger on the 6th fret of the G string, and that is our C sharp. That's the 3rd of A. Even though we're just playing around, that's a note that's in the key of E. I'm setting up this A chord. If you take a look, this might look pretty familiar. 6th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret. That's the top of an A major chord. So this first note and the 2nd note, that's the C sharp and the E, they're shared between the 2 chords. But that 3rd note, the high E string on the 5th fret, that's our A note. That's the note we're adding in, and I'm adding it in just a 16th before the A comes in. I'm anticipating the A. And it fits perfectly right there. Now on the way back, we're changing the rhythm up a little bit. Everything's been 16th notes up to this point. Now we're going to be doing some 8th note triplets. We're going to go back 4 on the high E string. That's our G sharp. 5 on the B string. That's our E. And then 4 on the G string, that's our B. We're going back in arpeggio. These notes happen to be in the major pentatonic scale as well too. In fact, most of the major pentatonic scale is in arpeggio. We've got a 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 5th, and the major 6th. So the second and the sixth, those aren't our arpeggio notes, but all three of the rest of them are. Now we go to the D string at the 6th fret. That's our G sharp. That's the major third of an E, but we're bending it up a half step. What's the note it's bending up to? A. This is a note we're trying to add in. We're trying to play that A every time the A chord comes around. Back to the 6th, back to the G sharp, and we work our way back down to the scale. Like we're going to go end it, but then we come back up to the major third and have a little major third harmony there over top of the E chord. In lick number 3, we're using pattern 5 of the E major pentatonic scale. We're working our way up. Each lick is a new pattern as we work up the neck of the guitar. So there's our pattern 5. And what we're going to do is we're going to start out on the highest note, the 9th fret. And that is up on the high E string. That is our C sharp to B. That's the 7th fret. And now we have some more of those 8th note triplets. We're sliding into the G sharp. That's 9th fret on the B. Up to the B, that's 7th fret on high E, back to the 9th fret on the B. Then we're going down the scale pattern. Here's our 7th fret on the B string, and then we have 9th fret on the G, and then 6th fret on the G, working our way down the E major pentatonic scale. But now, when the A chord comes in, we're going to go back to our G sharp that's on the B string now at the 9th fret, and we're going to bend that up a half step. There's that A note that we're trying to throw in with our E major pentatonic scale patterns again. Then we release and work our way back down the E major pentatonic scale again with an E, C sharp, and a B. Lick number 4, we're back in pattern 1 of the E major pentatonic scale. And remember, every time we hit the A chord, we're going to try to get creative and add an A note into our licks with this pattern here. So we're going to start off doing some country bends. We're going to go to the 12th fret. That's our B. And we're going to bend a full step up and then go straight, put our pinky at the 12th fret on the high E string to grab that root note, grab that E up top. And then that note that we had bent up full, we're going to do a release. This is kind of like leave it there. It's a pre-bend, but we're going to release it and then go to the 9th fret, go to our G sharp. Now that's a little tricky, especially if you're a beginner to work on, but make sure when you bend the first note, you put some other fingers behind your 3rd fret to support the bend. And remember, it's supposed to sound like the note that's 2 frets above it. So if you can match that. And then tucking that pinky underneath. Now the hardest part is, your first finger is going to be over the 10th fret, reaching back a little bit to grab that 9. And now we have a really interesting country style lick in this major pentatonic. We're going to take the 11th fret on the G string. That's our F sharp. And we're going to bar the 12th fret on the B and high E string. So we're getting really the top of a bar chord right here. This bent note makes it sound like it's a G sharp and a really nice sound. So together, pretty neat, pretty cool stuff. So a little bit more. This is kind of our bending lick here, but now we're going to the A chord. And this is where we're going to try and get creative and add another A. And so in E major pentatonic, up here on the high strings, our A is at the 10th fret on the B string. We're going to try and incorporate this, but how do we do it with bends? Well, here's what we're going to do. Put your pinky on the 9th fret of the high E string, and then your 3rd finger on the 9th fret of the B. And we're going to bend this B string at the 9th fret up a half step to make it sound like it's the 10th fret. So what notes are these? Well, it's a G sharp going to an A. That's the note we want to try. Now, if I went too far, it wouldn't sound right. This is trying to bend into that A note. And so that would be an A and a C sharp. That's the root and major third of the chord we're going to, which is A. Very cool sound. And then we release back to the 2 9s. And now here, because we're in pattern 1, major pentatonic, we have a lot of these hammer-ons and pull-offs that we can do from the 9th to the 11th fret. And we're going to make use of those. So we're going to put our 9th fret on the G string with our first finger. That's our E note. And then our 3rd finger on the 11th fret of the D string. We've got our C sharp low and then our E high. But what we can do, this isn't written in, but you can hammer on. You could bar the 9th fret and hammer on that 11th fret. Hammer on with your 3rd finger. And then we let go, back to 2 9s. That's straight from the E major chord. That's a B and an E. And then we have one more here. We're going to take that 9-11 style, but move it down to the lower string. So now we're going to have our 9th fret, first finger on the D string. That's our B. And then our 3rd finger on the 11th fret of the A string. And that's going to give us our G sharp. But we could also hammer on that 11 from a barred 9th fret as well too. And finally, in lick number 5, if you notice, each one of these licks is getting a little bit more difficult as we go, adding a little bit of a challenge for you today. We're going to start off up here in pattern 2 in the key of E major pentatonic, and we're going to slide into the 13th fret on the G string. That's going to start us all off. I would use our 2nd finger to slide up there, and we're doing a little bit like a Johnny B. Good type sound. So 13 on the G, B, that's a 12th fret on the B, C sharp, that's a 14th on the B, and then 12th fret on the high E string for our E. Now these are 16th note triplets, so they're going to be pretty fast. 1. And we're going to play E again, but now we're going to come back to finish this little part off from the 14th fret on the B to the 12th fret on the B, C sharp to B. All together. 1. So we have a lot more speed going on with this one. The second part of this lick, we're going to do the same thing, 13 on the G, 12 on the B, 14 on the B, and up to the high E string at the 12th fret. That's our E. So we're just going up this. Same thing like we did before, but this time we go a little bit higher. Instead of doing 12, the E, twice, we're going to go to the F sharp. That's at the 14th fret. And then when we come back down to finish this little part off, we're going to go back to E and back to C sharp. So together so far. Now the chord changes to A. Remember, we're going to try and get an A in here somewhere. So now what we're going to do is we're going to play the beginning of this lick again. 13 on G, 12, 14 on the B, and then 12 on the high E. Then we're going to hit the 14th fret, but this time we're going to bend up a full step, back to the 14 without a bend, back to the E note on the 12th fret, and jump down to the 14th fret on the G. That's our A note, and we're on the A chord. And we're going to move back from that 1 fret to the 13th fret. That is our G sharp, which is the 3rd of the E chord that's about to happen. And we're going to go to an E note too. We're anticipating the E chord. And then the E chord happens. Thanks for playing along today, and thanks to all of our Academy members over at PlayGuitarAcademy.com who are tearing into the tab and guitar profiles from this lesson right now. Don't forget to download my free Big 4 scale pattern worksheet. It's going to make all this easier for you. And as always, let me know what you think in the comments. Have a great practice. I'll see you in the next lick video.